The cursor blinked on the final authentication screen. I was about to authorize the last security layer for a $120 million defense contract with Lockheed Martin. 28 years of building relationships, understanding systems, knowing exactly which buttons to push and which protocols mattered. The biometric scanner was waiting for my fingerprint and voice confirmation. One click, and we'd lock in the biggest deal in company history. Then my office door opened without a knock. William Hartwell, our CEO, walked in like he owned the place, which he did. Behind him was this young woman in a designer suit clutching an iPad like it was made of gold. She looked like she'd just stepped out of business school yesterday. Maybe because she had. I'm Oliver Patterson, by the way. 52 years old, been running IT systems at Hartwell Defense Solutions since I was 24. People call me Ollie. Been the guy who keeps the lights on, the servers running, and the government contracts flowing. Built every major system we use, including the one that was about to make us all very rich. Ollie, William said with that fake smile he uses in board meetings. We need to talk. I looked at the screen. The authentication window was still waiting. The Pentagon was expecting final clearance by end of business. Patricia Knox had called twice already asking for status updates. Can this wait 30 seconds? I'm about to close the Lockheed deal. Actually, that's why we're here. William stepped aside like he was presenting a prize. This is Ashley Hartwell, my daughter. She's taking over as Director of Digital Innovation, effective immediately. My hand froze over the mouse. Director of Digital Innovation. That was a fancy way of saying she was taking my job. Taking over what exactly? Ashley smiled like she'd just won the lottery. Bright white teeth, probably cost more than my truck. Dad's been telling me about your amazing work here, Mr. Patterson. I'm so excited to bring some fresh energy to our defense partnerships. Fresh energy. I'd heard that phrase before in the trade magazines. Usually right before someone over 50 got shown the door. Ashley just finished her MBA at Stanford, William continued, like he was reading from a press release. Specialized in digital transformation and government relations. She's exactly what we need for the next phase of growth. Digital transformation. Government relations. 28 years of actually doing the work, and they were replacing me with someone who had classroom theories. I turned to look at her, really look at her. Designer heels that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Manicured nails that had never touched a keyboard for more than typing up a PowerPoint. Have you ever worked with ITAR compliance? She blinked twice. What's ITAR? International Traffic in Arms Regulations. The federal law that keeps defense contractors from going to prison. The thing that governs every single contract we have. The reason we spend millions on security protocols and background checks. I didn't say any of that out loud. Mr. Patterson, I know this might seem sudden, Ashley said, her voice taking on that patronizing tone they teach in business school, but I've been studying our contracts upstairs. I have some really innovative ideas about streamlining our processes. Studying our contracts. Upstairs, where the marketing department sits, 3 floors away from anything classified, where they make pretty charts about things they don't understand. William cleared his throat. The board feels it's time to embrace a more agile approach. Someone who understands the digital native mindset. Digital native mindset. Right. I built these systems when she was in middle school, worrying about which boy to ask to the spring dance. What about the Lockheed contract? I asked. Ashley will handle the final authorization, William said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Security will help you transition your access credentials. Security, not HR. Security. That's how you know they're not just firing you, they're erasing you. I looked at the screen again. The authentication was biometric, fingerprint, voice print, and retinal scan. 3-factor authentication that I'd designed myself after the last security audit. Ashley didn't have access because Ashley didn't exist in our system 6 months ago when we set up the protocols with the Pentagon. Hell, she didn't exist in our system yesterday. But they didn't know that yet. Congratulations, Ashley, I said, standing up slowly. I hope you know what you're walking into. Her smile never wavered. I'm sure I'll figure it out. How hard can it be, right? How hard can it be? 28 years of experience, and she thought it was like updating her Instagram. I logged out of the workstation without completing the authentication. The screen went dark, leaving just the company screensaver, a rotating logo of Hartwell Defense Solutions, established 1987, the year I graduated high school. "Good luck with that," I said. William's expression tightened. His jaw did that thing it does when the quarterly numbers come in low. "Is there something wrong with the system?" "Nope. Works perfectly. For authorized users." I gathered my coffee mug, the one my wife bought me 10 years ago that says "World's Most Patient IT Guy." Turned out she was right about the patient part. Grabbed my reading glasses from the desk drawer, left everything else. After 28 years, most of it was just clutter anyway. "Security will escort you out," William said. "Your personal items will be mailed to your home address. 28 years. No gold watch, no farewell party, no handshake, no thanks for building this company from the ground up. Just Ashley Hartwell with her fresh energy and her digital native mindset, sitting down at my desk like she owned it." Which she kind of did. I walked past the cubicles where I'd trained half these people, where I'd fixed their computers at 2 a.m. during system crashes, where I'd held their hands through Y2K, through security upgrades, through every crisis that threatened to shut us down. Same people who used to bring me their problems now couldn't meet my eyes. They all suddenly found their keyboards very interesting. The elevator ride down felt like it took forever. In the lobby, I handed my badge to Mike, the security guard. Same guy who'd said, "Morning, Ollie," every day for 15 years. "Sorry about this," he mumbled. "Not your fault, Mike." Outside in the parking lot, Virginia humidity hit like a wall. My truck was in the same spot where I'd parked it that morning, back when I thought I'd be closing the biggest deal of my career, back when I thought 28 years of loyalty meant something. I sat in the driver's seat and pulled out my phone. 3 missed calls from Patricia Knox at the Pentagon. She was probably wondering why the final authorization was taking so long. I didn't call her back. Not yet. Instead, I drove home to my house in Fairfax. Janet's car wasn't in the driveway. She was at her book club meeting. The house was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning. I walked out to my workshop in the garage and opened a beer. Sat down at my personal laptop, the one connected to my home network that had nothing to do with Hartwell Defense. See, the thing about building IT systems for almost 30 years is you learn things. You understand how security works, how authentication protocols function, how biometric systems can be designed with certain requirements. I pulled up the system architecture I'd designed for the Lockheed contract. Beautiful piece of work, if I say so myself. Completely secure, completely compliant with federal regulations, completely auditable, and completely dependent on specific user credentials to complete the final authorization phase. Ashley Hartwell was about to get a very expensive education in digital transformation. The next morning, I was drinking coffee on my back deck when my phone started buzzing like an angry wasp. Text after text from guys still at the office. "Dude, Ashley's freaking out about the Lockheed system. She's been calling IT support all morning." William brought in some hotshot consultant from Silicon Valley. "They're offering overtime to anyone who can fix the authentication issue." I finished my coffee and went inside. Janet was at the kitchen table with her laptop, probably working on her lesson plans. She's taught 3rd grade for 25 years, knows a thing or two about dealing with difficult situations. "Shouldn't you be at work?" she asked without looking up. "Got fired yesterday, replaced by the boss's daughter." She stopped typing, looked at me over her reading glasses. "After 28 years?" 28 years. Janet's been married to me long enough to know that tone, the calm before the storm. "What did you do, Oliver?" "Nothing illegal, nothing that hurts the company long term. Just left them a little puzzle to solve." "Oliver, they wanted digital transformation. They're getting it." My phone rang. Patricia Knox from the Pentagon. I'd been expecting this call. "Oliver, what's the status on the Lockheed authorization?" "We were expecting final clearance yesterday afternoon. I'm no longer with Hartwell Defense, Patricia. You'll need to speak with Ashley Hartwell, the new Director of Digital Innovation." Long pause. I could hear her typing in the background, probably pulling up personnel files. Since when? Since yesterday afternoon. Right in the middle of the authorization process. In the middle of a $120 million contract authorization? Are you serious? That's what I said. Another pause, longer this time. "Oliver, we've worked together for 15 years. I need to know." Is there anything I should be concerned about regarding security protocols? Patricia wasn't asking about the contract timeline. She was asking about ITAR compliance, about whether some MBA student was about to get access to classified defense systems without proper clearance. I'd recommend a full security review before proceeding, I said carefully. New personnel should probably go through proper clearance verification. You know how thorough the auditors can be. Understood. Thanks for the heads up. After I hung up, Janet was staring at me from across the kitchen table. What kind of puzzle did you leave them, Oliver? The kind that requires 28 years of experience to solve. That afternoon, my buddy Jake from the office called. Jake runs network security. We've worked together since the Clinton administration, back when people thought the internet was just a fad. Ollie, what the hell did you do to the authentication system? Nothing. Why? Ashley's been trying to complete the Lockheed authorization for 8 hours straight. The system keeps rejecting her credentials. She's gone through 3 different IT consultants, 2 systems analysts, and now they're talking about flying in some expert from Lockheed. Did they check her clearance level? She doesn't have one. She's not even in the federal database. Never had a background check. Huh. That's a problem for defense contracts. No kidding. The consultant they brought in says the system is corrupted, wants to do a complete rebuild from scratch. A rebuild would take 4 months and cost about $3 million, that's what I told them. Did you mention it would also void all our existing security certifications? I may have forgotten to bring that up. Jake was quiet for a moment. You built this thing so only you could authorize final payments, didn't you? I built it to be secure. Turns out secure systems require authorized users with proper clearances. You magnificent bastard. I prefer experienced systems architect. That evening, the local news ran a story about Hartwell Defense's technical difficulties with a major government contract. The reporter mentioned that the Pentagon was reviewing security protocols before proceeding. They showed footage of our building, looking like a fortress with all those security cameras. William Hartwell looked like he'd aged 10 years in 24 hours when they interviewed him. We're confident this minor technical issue will be resolved shortly, he said, loosening his tie. Our team is working around the clock. Minor technical issue, right. The next morning brought more texts from the office. Ashley had apparently spent the night in the main conference room with 4 different IT consultants, trying to crack my authentication protocol. The cleaning crew found her asleep on the table at 6 a.m., surrounded by empty energy drink cans and technical manuals she probably didn't understand. By noon, the story hit the defense industry trade magazines. Hartwell Defense struggles with personnel transition during critical contract phase. The article was careful not to say too much, but anyone who knew the industry could read between the lines. Someone had leaked that they'd fired their senior systems architect in the middle of a major authorization process. The defense news reporter who wrote it used phrases like institutional knowledge gap and continuity concerns. My phone rang around lunchtime. Marcus Webb from Raytheon. Oliver, heard you might be available for consulting work. Might be. We've got a situation with some legacy defense systems that need experienced oversight, the kind of work you've been doing at Hartwell. What kind of situation? The kind where the Pentagon specifically requested someone with your background and clearance level. Interesting. What's the timeline? Immediate. And Oliver? The compensation package is, let's say it reflects the current market value for your expertise, which is triple your last salary, plus equity options, plus a consulting retainer. That alone is more than most people make in a year. I sat down in my workshop chair. That's generous. It's realistic. Turns out there aren't many people who understand both legacy defense systems and current security protocols, especially people the Pentagon trusts. That afternoon, Ashley Hartwell called me directly. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Patterson, this is Ashley from Hartwell Defense. I was hoping we could talk. About what? I think there might be some confusion about the authorization system. Could you walk me through the process? I don't work there anymore, Ashley. I understand, but maybe as a consultant, we could pay you for a few hours of your time. How much? Well, I'd have to check with my father about our consulting budget. Ashley, yesterday your father decided my 28 years of experience wasn't worth keeping around. Today you want to pay me by the hour to fix the mess that created. Do Do you see the problem with that logic? Silence on the other end. The Pentagon has frozen the contract pending a security review, I continued. That review is going to find that you don't have proper clearance, don't understand ITR protocols, and don't have authorization to access classified systems. What do you think happens next? Maybe we could discuss bringing you back full-time. At what level? Director of Legacy Systems? Legacy Systems. Like I was some kind of museum piece, like everything I'd built was obsolete. No thanks, but I appreciate the offer. I hung up and walked out to my garage workshop, started sanding a piece of oak I'd been saving for a coffee table. Working with my hands always helped me think. The wood was solid, reliable. It had taken decades to grow, and it would last decades more if you treated it right. My phone buzzed with another text from Jake. Pentagon's sending investigators tomorrow. Williams locked in his office. Ashley's crying in the bathroom. Stock price down 12%. I kept sanding. The oak was starting to show its grain, beautiful patterns that had been hidden under the rough surface. Sometimes you just had to know how to bring out the natural character. The Pentagon investigation took exactly 72 hours. Military efficiency at its finest. I was finishing my morning coffee when Jake called with the play-by-play. His voice was somewhere between amazed and terrified. They found everything, Ollie. ITR violations, unauthorized access attempts, security protocol failures. Ashley tried to override the authentication system 73 times. The logs show she was copying classified data to unsecured drives. That's not good. It gets worse. Remember that consultant from Silicon Valley? Turns out he doesn't have security clearance either. They've been letting uncleared personnel access classified systems for 2 days straight. I nearly choked on my coffee. They did what? Full breach protocol. The feds are treating it like a potential espionage case. Ashley gave an interview to Defense Weekly yesterday trying to explain the technical glitch. She mentioned specific details about the Lockheed contract that are classified at the secret level. Some people dig their own graves. Others rent excavators and work overtime. What's William saying? Nothing. His lawyer told him to shut up and hire a crisis management firm. But the board called an emergency meeting for this afternoon. Word is they're discussing his removal. And Ashley? Federal agents interviewed her for 6 hours yesterday. She kept saying she was just trying to streamline outdated processes and bring transparency to government contracting. I shook my head. 28 years of following security protocols to the letter, and she'd blown through them all in 48 hours. By evening, the story was everywhere. CNN, Fox News, even the Washington Post. Defense contractor under federal investigation for security violations. Ashley's video interview with Defense Weekly was attached to every article showing her explaining how she planned to modernize classified defense systems. The comments section was absolutely brutal. A lot of retired military and defense contractors who understood exactly what they were watching. This is what happens when you replace institutional knowledge with PowerPoint presentations. 28-year veteran fired for a nepotism hire who doesn't understand ITAR. Brilliant business strategy. Someone should send this to every defense contractor as a training video on what not to do. I worked defense contracts for 30 years. This girl just committed career suicide on national television. My phone rang. Patricia Knox, and she sounded like she'd been drinking coffee for 18 hours straight. Oliver, I have news. The Pentagon is terminating the Hartwell contract. Immediate effect. On what grounds? Security violations, ITAR non-compliance, unauthorized personnel accessing classified systems, failure to maintain proper clearance protocols. You want me to keep going? What about Lockheed? They're requesting to work directly with you as an independent contractor. Something about maintaining continuity with someone they trust and who actually understands the technical requirements. Interesting. Oliver, I've been doing procurement for the DoD for 20 years. I've never seen someone destroy their own company faster than Ashley Hartwell just did. That interview, it's going to be used in security training courses for decades. After I hung up, I sat in my workshop for a while thinking. My coffee table was nearly finished. The oak had turned out even better than I'd hoped, showing grain patterns I hadn't expected. Janet found me there around dinner time, bringing me a sandwich and another beer. How was your day, unemployed husband? Productive. Got a job offer? From who? Lockheed. Through the Pentagon. Looks like they want me to finish what I started. And the revenge part? Revenge? I didn't do anything to Ashley. She did it all herself. Oliver, seriously, I just built a secure system and left it running exactly as designed. She's the one who tried to hack it 73 times and then gave classified information to a magazine reporter. Janet sat down on my workbench. So what happens now? William got fired this morning. Board voted him out unanimously. Ashley's probably going to federal prison for espionage. Espionage? That's what they call it when you share classified defense information with journalists, even if you're too stupid to know it's classified. And you? I start Monday as Senior Systems Architect for Lockheed's Special Access Programs Division. They offered me stock options, full benefits, security clearance upgrade, and a salary that's actually quadruple what Hartwell was paying. Quadruple? Turns out 28 years of experience is worth something after all. Who knew? The next week, the industry trade magazines ran follow-up stories. Hartwell Defense Solutions was under investigation by the FBI, Department of Justice, and Department of Defense Inspector General. Their security clearances had been revoked company-wide. The stock had dropped 67% in 5 trading days. Ashley had been arrested for violating the Espionage Act, the Arms Export Control Act, and about 6 other federal statutes. Her lawyer was arguing she was too inexperienced to understand the classification levels of the information she'd shared. It wasn't a great defense strategy, basically admitting she was incompetent to do the job they'd given her. William was facing civil lawsuits from shareholders who'd lost millions when the stock tanked. Turns out firing your senior technical staff in the middle of a critical national security contract doesn't inspire investor confidence. The lawsuit cited gross negligence and breach of fiduciary duty. I drove past the Hartwell building on my way to my first day at Lockheed. Half the parking lot was empty. There was a for-lease, 50,000 skew theft available sign in front of the building. Through the windows, I could see people carrying boxes to their cars. At Lockheed, they gave me a corner office with actual windows that looked out over the Potomac. Real windows, not the fake ones that just show screensavers. My nameplate read Oliver Patterson, Senior Systems Architect, Special Access Programs, not legacy systems, not digital transformation, just the job I'd been doing for 28 years, finally with people who understood what it was worth. Marcus Webb stopped by my office around lunchtime on my second day. How are you settling in? Good. The coffee's better here, and nobody's trying to fix things that aren't broken. Oliver, I have to ask, did you plan all this? I leaned back in my new ergonomic chair. I planned a secure authentication system that followed all federal regulations. Everything else was just natural consequences. Natural consequences. You know what they say about IT systems, Marcus? Garbage in, garbage out. If you put unqualified people in charge of critical infrastructure, you get critical failures. And if you put qualified people in charge? I gestured around my new office, with its government security certifications on the wall and my brand new top secret clearance badge on the desk. You get results. Marcus laughed. Remind me never to fire you. Probably a good policy, especially in this business. That evening, I finished the coffee table in my garage. Perfect fit for our living room. Solid oak, built to last. The kind of craftsmanship you don't see much anymore, but some people still appreciate. Kind of like some other things I could mention. 3 months later, I was sitting in a congressional hearing room watching Ashley Hartwell try to explain to a House subcommittee why she thought sharing classified defense information with reporters was a good idea. I wasn't supposed to be there, but Patricia Knox had gotten me a seat in the gallery. You need to see this, she'd said. It's like watching a masterclass in how not to testify before Congress. Ashley was wearing a conservative Navy suit, probably picked out by her legal team. Her lawyer kept leaning over to whisper in her ear, but she ignored him. She was trying to charm the committee members, smiling that same bright smile she'd given me in my office. It wasn't working. Ms. Hartwell, said Congressman Rodriguez from Texas, you testified that you believe sharing technical specifications with Defense Weekly was part of transparent government contracting. Can you explain what training you received on classification protocols? Well, I have an MBA from Stanford, and I took several courses on government relations. That's not what I asked. What specific training did you receive on handling classified information? Ashley blinked twice. I assumed someone would brief me on that. The hearing room was dead quiet. You could hear the court reporter's fingers on the keyboard. Ms. Hartwell, You accessed classified systems for 3 days without any security training whatsoever? I was trying to solve a technical problem. The previous IT director had locked us out of our own systems. I almost laughed out loud. Even now, she was trying to blame me. Congressman Rodriguez wasn't having it. Ms. Hartwell, are you saying it's Mr. Patterson's fault that you violated federal law? Her lawyer finally grabbed her arm and whispered something urgent. Ashley's face went red. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Too late. She'd already incriminated herself about 6 different ways. After the hearing, Patricia and I walked to a coffee shop near the Capitol. She looked like she'd been holding back laughter for 3 hours. That was educational, she said. That was painful. Oliver, I've been meaning to ask, how did you know she'd do something that stupid? I stirred my coffee, thinking about it. I didn't know she'd give classified information to reporters, but I knew she didn't understand the system she was trying to run. When people don't understand something, they get frustrated. When they get frustrated, they make bad decisions. And the authentication system? I built it the way it was supposed to be built. Secure, compliant, auditable. The fact that it required someone with proper clearance to complete the authorization wasn't a bug. It was a feature. Patricia nodded. The Pentagon's been using your case as an example in procurement training. Why institutional knowledge matters in defense contracting. Good. Maybe fewer companies will think they can replace experience with enthusiasm. My phone buzzed with a text from Janet. How's the hearing going? I texted back. Ashley just pleaded the fifth. Case closed. 6 months after that, the whole Hartwell saga was basically over. William had settled the shareholder lawsuits for $47 million and declared personal bankruptcy. The company had been sold to a private equity firm for parts. Most of the employees had found jobs elsewhere, including Jake, who'd come to work for Lockheed in my division. Ashley got 18 months in federal prison, plus 3 years probation and a $250,000 fine. Her lawyer had managed to plea bargain it down from the original espionage charges, but she was still a convicted felon. Good luck getting a security clearance after that. The Lockheed contract had been completed successfully, with me as the lead systems architect. We'd brought it in on time and under budget, which was basically unheard of in defense contracting. My stock options were worth about $800,000 at the current share price. But the real satisfaction wasn't the money. It was walking into work every morning knowing that people understood what I did and why it mattered. Nobody talked about digital transformation or disrupting legacy processes. They talked about building systems that worked, protecting national security, and getting the job done right. On a Friday afternoon in spring, I was finishing up some documentation when Marcus Webb knocked on my office door. Got a minute? Sure, what's up? He sat down in the chair across from my desk. I just got off a call with the Navy. They're looking for someone to lead a new cybersecurity initiative. Multiple contracts, probably $300 million over 3 years. Sounds like a big project. They specifically asked for you. I leaned back in my chair. Why me? Because you understand that security isn't just about having the latest technology. It's about having people who know what they're doing. And the position comes with a promotion to Principal Systems Architect, a 40% salary increase, and equity in the cybersecurity division we're spinning off. I thought about it for about 10 seconds. When do I start? Monday, if you want. That evening, I drove home to Fairfax thinking about how much had changed in less than a year. This time last year, I was worried about being forced into early retirement. Now I had job security, financial security, and professional respect. Janet was in the kitchen making dinner when I got home. How was work? Got promoted. She turned around, wooden spoon in hand. Again? Navy cybersecurity project. They specifically requested me. Of course they did. I sat down at the kitchen table, at the coffee table I'd built in my workshop during those first few days after getting fired. Solid oak, perfect joints, built to last. You know what's funny? I said. What? William thought he was modernizing the company by getting rid of the old guys like me. Turns out the old guys are exactly what people want. Experience matters. Experience matters. Later that evening, I was out in my workshop putting the finishing touches on a bookshelf for Janet's classroom when my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize. Mr. Patterson? This is David Brooks from the Washington Post. I'm working on a follow-up story about the Hartwell defense case. Could I ask you a few questions? What kind of questions? About institutional knowledge in the defense industry. How companies can avoid the mistakes Hartwell made. I thought about it. Off the record, if you prefer. Here's what you need to understand. You can't run a defense company like a tech startup. You can't move fast and break things when those things are national security systems. You can't replace 28 years of experience with 6 months of enthusiasm. Can I quote that? Sure. But here's the part you can't quote. William Hartwell didn't fire me because I was obsolete. He fired me because I knew more about his business than he did. And that made him uncomfortable. Why can't I quote that? Because it's still true at a lot of companies. And those companies are your advertisers. Brooks laughed. Fair enough. After I hung up, I went back to sanding the bookshelf. Smooth, even strokes, taking my time. No rush. When you know what you're doing, you don't have to hurry. Sometimes the best revenge is just being really, really good at your job and watching other people fail at it.